Hi guys, thank you so much for being here. I just want to say a quick heads up. My internet actually went out a few hours ago and I am operating this via hotspot, so I'm just crossing my fingers that it works for you. I didn't want to cancel it. I wanted to try it. If it doesn't, we'll have to move this to a different day, but I really wanted to try to keep this live chat if possible. Now for me currently, it is looking really out of focus, so you'll have to let me know if it is messed up for you, but this is going to be the best that I can probably do because I'm using a hotspot right now. But let me know what it's looking like for you. I just want to say hi to everyone in the room right now. So hi to Ben, Annie, Vanessa, Will, Amira, Makara, Brittany. If you are here and you would like a shout out, go ahead and say hey in the comments. Hi, Melody. And again, how does the picture quality look for you guys? For me, it's looking super out of focus, but maybe on your end it's good. I'm hoping it is. But I'll go ahead and start talking about 13 Reasons Why. Hopefully you had a chance to watch my video where I talked about the entire series. It's funny because when I started watching this series, I thought that it was just a standalone series. Like I thought it was kind of like a Big Little Lies, like there was no chance of a second season. I didn't want to Google it. I never Google anything before I watch a new show because I just want to keep my mind open to everything. Hi, Neil, Sheila, Mr. HOD, Ralph B, Ulysses, thank you so much for being here. So I went into it thinking it was just like a one-time thing, just like 13 episodes only. And then like when I was on episode 13, I realized, and it had been there all the time, I realized it said season 1. Like on Netflix, they had labeled each episode season 1, episode 3, 4, 5, whatever. So it was like, oh my gosh. So as soon as I finished the series, I Googled to see if a season 2 was possible. So there's a lot of debate over whether there will be a season 2. There was a lot of stuff left unanswered, many things left unanswered in the finale. And I asked you guys what you were thinking about a season 2 in my last video, and I got pretty much half and half responses. Half said leave it alone, it was great as it was, let's don't do a second season, and the other half really wanted those questions answered, but people were confused about how a second season would be, like without Hannah. What would they do? What would their focus be? So a lot of, like me, this was probably the most emotional show I had ever watched. I told you guys I cried and cried and cried with the last episode, and it's a show that's very special to me. I loved it so very much. I loved every single episode. I didn't want it to end, but I'm going to go to your comments right now. Ben says you think that because of how popular the series has been, they will probably make a season 2 because they left so many loose ends. Now, I haven't read the books, but I don't know if the books ended with all these unanswered questions and no hope for a sequel, or if they tied things up and they're specifically adding things to the show to ensure that we have a second season. I don't know. If anybody read the book, let me know. And I mistakenly made the remark that Alex died in my video, and I know that he was in critical condition. So we don't know if he died or not. Sheila's saying you don't think he did. If there's a season 2, his recovery could be part of the story. I definitely think if we get a second season, he lives. Ralph says the second season would be all the fallout of everything. I mean, I feel kind of torn about having a second season. I loved it so much. I love the character so much that okay, I think I'm coming back now. Okay, let me wait till I see myself. Okay, so Ralph is saying that the book pretty much ends the same way, which is interesting. So I don't know if the author ever meant to have a sequel to this book or no. I mean, to me, if I was reading that book, I would think it was really strange that it ended that way with all those loose ends and that the author didn't want a sequel. So I would like to have I mean, I want the questions answered, so I don't know. I'm kind of torn on it. Again, I'm using a hotspot to do this live chat, so we could have more issues. I'm amazed it's even working this well. Just a heads up, because my internet is out and it's not going to be fixed till tomorrow. So Mr. HOD says the author came out to say the ending is perfect for the show and the book because it relates to real life situations and how some answers never get solved, sadly, and that's life. So I'm wondering if the author wants it to end that way with the show as well. Ben says the author said he planned a sequel but didn't end up doing it because he felt it was more powerful as one entity. So there's that. And I kind of do agree with that. But again, they did such a great job with casting the show. And I love the actors so much that I kind of want to see them again. I don't know. Jay says that Hannah's rape scene made your blood boil and your stomach turn. So yes, terrible, absolutely terrible. I mean, Jessica's rape scene was bad enough. I personally feel like Hannah's was worse. Bryce definitely needs to go to jail, and I think a lot of people want to see that in a second season. They want to see him punished for his actions, which I definitely agree with that. Ralph says the end was supposed to leave the characters and viewers with hope for tomorrow. Well, sort of, but then in a way, I feel like there was a lot of people who weren't getting what they deserved, you know? It's like Bryce, what's happening with Bryce? What's happening with the counselor? Technically Sherry, I guess Sherry did turn herself in, so I don't know if she's going to face any prosecution or not, but she pretty much contributed to Jeff's death. Vanessa says the book came out in 2007. Hopefully he will write a second book. So it's been 10 years since that book came out and still no sequel. So it'll be interesting. Sheila says, was Selena Gomez meant to play Hannah? I'm not sure, but I know she was like a producer on this, or I'm not sure what her role was, but she was related with the show. Neil says, even if there was a second season, you think there would still be loose ends because that's life. And, that's right. Every show that we watch doesn't have to tie everything up, whether, in a series finale or a season finale. So maybe they want it that way. Okay, she was executive producer. Thank you. So the death scene, as Miley is talking about here, was, for me, the worst type of suicide scene I'd ever seen on a TV show or movie that I can remember, specifically because usually when we have suicide scenes on TV or movies, people take a bunch of pills or they shoot themselves and you don't see it, or they jump off something. To show her actually using the razor blades to show her cutting herself was, I have to say, it was probably the hardest thing I've ever watched on TV. Literally cringing thinking about it, that whole scene, and then with her mom coming in and then her dad, just absolutely killed me. Brittany says, you think Bryce did the worst out of anyone? He sent the photo, touched Hannah's butt, raped 2 people. Feel like he's the worst type of person in the world. You hate him so much. And the thing is, it sounded like he raped other people as well because he felt like that they wanted it, which we know they probably didn't. So I think if anything, that's one of the main reasons people want to see a season 2, to see justice served. But I also think that people are curious about Alex for a season 2. People are also should be curious about Tyler, which I don't know if I'm ready for that either, because if we get a season 2, he's going to go, probably, unless somebody stops him or he changes his mind, he's probably going to kill some people who we know in the school, which I remember watching American Horror Story season 1. And the school shooting scene still haunts me. I can't stand watching that kind of stuff, so that really bothers me. Will says, does anyone else see Tyler going crazy coming? Well, yes. I mean, I think he is the stereotypical person who is bullied over and over and over and who just snaps and then does something like a school shooting, sadly. Ralph says, notice Bryce was the only one who didn't get tapes. Now, he was supposed to be the 12th person to get the tapes, and I think that Clay was supposed to give them to him, and he had a conversation with Tony about it, and he didn't. Instead, he jumped to 13, which was Mr. Porter, and he gave them to him. So he did leave him out, which probably he shouldn't have, but he did, because he wanted him to go to jail. Brittany says when Selena bought the rights many years ago, she had herself in mind as Hannah, which I could kind of see her playing, but she thought she wasn't right anymore because she was so much older, which makes sense. But I could have definitely seen her in that role. I'm getting a lot of comments, so if I missed yours, just comment it again. I'm trying to get to as many people as I can. Ben says, you think maybe season 2 could be like Tyler's 13 Reasons for maybe doing a school shooting. And the thing about him is that he's not completely innocent himself. I mean, the stuff he did, like spying on Hannah, was really creepy. And I understand he works for the yearbook, but he's essentially stalking people and taking invasive photos, and he's got some issues. It's not to me like he's just some totally innocent person who's being bullied. I mean, he kind of attracts some of that negative attention. Jay says they don't even have to have a 13-episode second season. They could just have like 4 episodes to tie everything up. And I've seen a couple people ask for like a 2-hour episode or some kind of movie to answer these questions. I don't know. Annie says Marcus's face just annoyed you. A lot of the people annoy me. I think Courtney, I saw someone ask who I didn't like. Courtney really bothered me. Like, I just didn't like her attitude at all. And it took her forever to like come clean, you know? I don't know. William says you think Tyler shot Alex. I absolutely agree with you. I made that point in my video. I don't think Alex shot himself because here's why. We see Tyler get a handgun shortly before Alex is shot, and then Tyler knew that Alex had been shot and he removed his photo from who I think were going to be his victims in the school shooting. Amir says the graphicness is really an important part of the show. It's meant to make people feel uncomfortable because this really happens. It's very necessary and eye-opening. And I completely agree. It was very hard to watch, but I'm not criticizing the show for going there because, you know, they definitely were trying to get many messages across. And as hard as it was to watch, I think some people probably needed to see that. Neil says, in regards to Tyler, you found it interesting that he had photos hanging up at the end. Yes, by him pulling Alex's picture down, how did he know Alex had been shot? And I think he assumed he was dead because I think he shot him, which that to me is such a huge cliffhanger. I don't know. Annie's wondering if Jessica shot Alex because, yes, she did have the access to guns with Bryce, and that was a really creepy scene when she was showing him her dad's guns. I personally thought she was going to shoot Bryce, which wouldn't have made me mad, but Melody says when Ryan kept telling Courtney to F off over and over, you were laughing because she deserved it. Yeah, I'm glad that Ryan did that. I mean, wait, who is Ryan? I've forgotten who Ryan is now. I was thinking you were saying Clay. Remind me who Ryan is. Okay. Ralph says when Zach's little sister praised him at the breakfast table, this is when Zach felt guilty and started contemplating being a better person. I definitely think he felt some guilt. And I don't understand why, you know, Hannah says he threw that note on the floor, but yet he had it folded up in his wallet. So that's one part I don't understand. He was pretty crappy to her, let's be real. He made me very upset at the diner. Him stealing those little notes that were encouraging to her was just cruel. Don't really like him, to be honest, but, you know. Oh, the poetry guy. Okay. That's who that is. Thank you. I got you. Yeah, I don't like him at all either, though. Like, I really don't like him. That was really low that he published her poem, which she, you know, I know she shared it with that group, but she didn't want it shared with the school. Now, that's some things that Alex did kill himself or try to kill himself. You think Tyler hung up all the pictures as potential candidates to kill and took Alex's down because Alex was nice. Now, I can see that too because remember, Alex stood up for him when he was being bullied by the Montgomery guy in the hallway. So I see that too. Brittany says many people had access to guns, Tyler, Jessica, Justin, because we saw Justin taking that gun from his mom, absolutely. So I don't know if they were implying something here or if it was just straight up Alex, whose dad was a police officer, so he had access to guns. Maybe it was him. Yeah, I liked the poem, and the teachers liked the poem, and when she went to that poetry group, they liked it, but I think it was written in a way it was a personal poem, and where she was a teen in high school, she didn't want people to think it was her. Lionel says you love horror movies and shows. They are more graphic and gory than 13 Reasons Why, but the storyline in this one was so realistic that really got you crying. So, yeah, I mean, of course, I love horror movies. And this definitely, it wasn't a horror show. It wasn't even like a mystery show, really. And I loved it so much. It wasn't really the typical kind of show that I'm attracted to, but it was perfect for me from episode 1. Now, Ralph thinks that Alex shot himself for attention due to every time he got in trouble, his dad blew it off and would give him an attaboy pat on the back. Okay, so Alex's dad was probably the most clueless parent, I guess, except for like Justin's mom, who seemed to not give a crap about him. But Alex's dad thought everything was just going great, and then his son was like an angel. It was really, really off. Sheila says it hurt you seeing Tyler's parents talking about the rock window thing because they seem like nice people. They did seem like nice people, and I did feel bad for him when he kept getting a rock thrown in his window. That was a very sad scene. Miley's asking, what was Tony's relationship with Hannah and why was he so close to their parents? So that for me was a little bit weird too, because we never really saw her interact much in the past with Tony until I guess near the end. But it seemed like they were so close and she trusted him to give him the tapes initially. And I guess he showed up right after she died. I don't know. Melody says you feel like Alex showed all the signs of suicide, but the Tyler storyline makes sense too. Yeah, it's confusing to me because I see them sort of hinting around that someone else did it, which would be a nice twist if there's a season 2, but I could see him doing it as well. Jay says the scene that made you most sad was when Hannah said that Clay didn't deserve to be on the tapes. Yeah, and I felt kind of bad for him that he had his own tape, because really he did nothing wrong to her. And I mean, she rejected him after they kind of hooked up, and she didn't explain to him what the deal was. So he felt weird around her and acted weird around her because he didn't know what was going on. And I guess he thought she didn't really like him or wasn't into him that way. Ralph says that Alex wanted to get punished. He was begging for it the whole time. Amir says Alex may have killed himself, as in his final scene. That's the other clue that shows you he's probably may have done it, because he was tidying up his room and everything, and his, dad was like, oh, this looks really nice. So that's kind of like he was getting things in order. Like we saw Hannah making her bed and everything before she killed herself. So Liam wants to know if Sherry was prosecuted for driving into the stop sign and if Mr. Porter was fired. I agree with you that Mr. Porter made a lot of mistakes. He definitely should lose his job and maybe more. But I liked Sherry, actually. She was one of the people who I liked, but I feel like she caused Jeff's death, because I don't believe he was drunk. So I don't know what would happen to her. Ralph is wondering if Tony came out to Hannah because Clay didn't realize Tony was gay. I figured that Tony was gay for quite a while, especially because he had his boyfriend hanging around with him, but I know Clay totally didn't catch on. Neil says Alex talked early on about him and his dad shooting, and then Alex destroys Monty in video games because of his great shooting. So those are some good points to support the fact that he did, in fact, shoot himself. Yeah, Tony's coming out scene to Clay was amazing. It was funny because I already knew, and he just had no idea. And he thought that Clay was in love, or he thought that Tony was in love with Hannah. So that was really interesting. Annie says when she went to speak to Mr. Porter and he didn't listen to her, that annoyed you so much. The biggest mistake Mr. Porter made was he told, I guess, the principal that he'd only met with Hannah once to talk about college prospects, which we saw in a flashback, but that was a lie because he met her twice the day of her death when she talked about wanting to end everything, and he never told anyone about that. Of course, she recorded it, so there's the evidence. I don't know if that's even admissible in court, but since there's that evidence, he would probably have to come clean and say he did talk to her. So he apparently felt like he did something wrong or contributed to her making that decision because he was trying to hide the fact that they did meet on the last day she was alive. Paloma says there's a suicide scene in Nip Tuck that was sad. The woman takes pills and the guy helps her with the plastic bag, and we see the whole process until she's dead. That kind of rings a bell with me. I was a big Nip Tuck fan. I know Ralph P. watched it too. It's so like that was on so long ago that I don't even remember that real well, but interesting. I'm sure that bothered me at the time. Ralph thinks that people didn't think Tony was gay due to his macho and bully buster persona. I honestly thought he was like Bruno Mars. He reminded me so much of Bruno Mars. Paper Lad says in the documentary, someone also said Alex killed himself, and that would happen to some people after a person they knew killed him or herself. So, right. So maybe there's some sort of copycat kind of thing going on when you know a friend or someone you go to school with who kills himself. Maybe if you've been having those thoughts, I mean, this is sick, but it's like it gives you the courage to do that too, which is terrible. Vanessa says Kate Walsh, who plays Hannah's mom, is such a good actress. I thought Kate was incredible, but to be honest, I felt like pretty much everyone was incredible because even the people I really disliked were real to me. I almost felt like I was watching a reality show. Ashley, hi, thank you so much for being here. And you said he reminded you of Bruno Mars too. Like totally. I just kept thinking of Bruno when I saw him. Neil says on one side we see it's Tuesday, October 10th, but on the other side would be Monday, October 9th, which would be the day he met with Hannah and she killed herself. And I think I missed the first part of your comment, so let me know what that was so it can make sense. The rules of attraction Ralph was telling me about was a really bad bathtub suicide scene. Now, I feel like I've seen that. That's a movie, right? Who was in that? Because that sounds so familiar. So maybe I've seen that too. Gosh, I feel like I have. Ben says the counselor literally told her to get over being raped. Can't stand him. Yeah, I mean, he just handled that wrong. I'm not going to say like he meant or wanted her to kill herself or anything like that, but he just handled the whole situation wrong. Brittany says Hannah said she didn't want to convict Bryce or tell anyone yet. Mr. Porter's comment was so hurtful. The only other option is to move on, but that wasn't right. It's just a confusing discussion to me. Well, here's the thing. When she made those kind of statements about wanting to end it all, my mom actually used to be a guidance counselor, and I asked her what would be the protocol. And obviously, she's at a different school than this fictional school, but she said when anyone would make a comment about, even like a jokingly comment, if they come to her and said, I'm feeling like killing myself, I don't like my life, that they would have to contact a local agency that was like a psychologist agency that dealt with teens, and they would have to come in, and they would also have to call your parents. So I think he made a lot of mistakes there. He should have at least alerted someone else, because I know when she said she wanted to end everything, she kind of took it back once he pushed her on it. But when you make a statement like that, it's almost like saying you have a bomb on a plane. People are going to take it seriously. You can't just take it back right away because you get scared of the consequences. So I think he did a lot of things wrong. So apparently James Vanderbeek, Ian Somerhalder, and Kate Bosworth were in that. I probably have seen it. I probably should Google it and look at the images from it to see if I kind of remember that. Dadson says Tony's just awesome. He's not afraid to be himself. He's strong for his friends. He tries to help people. He's funny and he's tough. Yeah, definitely. And he stuck by Clay the whole time, wanting him to do the right thing, wanting him to finish the tapes. Will says the parents in this were almost as clueless as the liars' parents. Yes, but you know, this show is so like 1,000 times more realistic than any Pretty Little Liars episode, and I do appreciate it for that. Annie also agrees that, or Annie's saying that Catherine Langford, who played Hannah, was good. Absolutely. And she says that Kate Walsh played her mom was really good. Yes. Amy Lee says you hated how Tony told Clay that he was the reason that Hannah, now that was wrong. I'm with you. The reason that Hannah killed herself, despite her saying Clay didn't deserve to be on the tapes. That really scared me when that scene went down. And I know it really, really bothered Clay, and I don't know why he did that. It was wrong. Miley says, it sucks that a lot of this happened at your school, and watching this show makes you understand it a little more. Wish we could have more people that care not about others. I felt like it was a very, very realistic show, sadly. And not only are people bullied in real life relentlessly and at school and probably at some workplaces, but it's very brutal online. As you guys know, and what I talked about in my video, just start reading comments of people who are popular on YouTube, like Trisha Paytas comes to mind. I mean, no matter how ridiculous someone's video is, you know, people have told me I should kill myself, in the comments over me reacting to an SNL video, which is I'm not even being controversial. So it's just like really sad to me that people say terrible things to people, whether online or in person. And it's just sick to me that that's accepted or that people think that's okay. And you never know someone's state of mind or what they're dealing with, and it takes a lot of guts for some people to upload a video to YouTube. So when you're telling them to kill themselves, you have no idea. Maybe they are suicidal and they were just happy and they're trying to work through it by putting up a video, and then you're telling them terrible things. I don't know. Now, Vanessa's wondering if I think that Sky got help or had thoughts of suicide. So basically, Sky was a cutter. She had been cutting herself, and she mentioned that's the way she deals with the pain. She said that suicide was for the weak, which I thought was an interesting way to handle the topic, because anytime people get into a heated debate about suicide, you have the argument that suicide is for lazy people who give up on life, and it's a selfish thing to do because you're hurting all the people you leave behind, which is a hard, statement to make, because you really don't know what someone's going through or what they're thinking who's suicidal. So it's to me, I don't ever try to judge someone who has attempted that or who has thought about it or who has done it, because you just don't know what was going on for them, and people handle things differently. Of course, I would never advocate that, but I don't know if she had been suicidal or what her deal was, but I like her. I think that I think she just wanted someone to care about her, and I thought it was really cool that Clay talked to her at the end and just he wanted her to leave school. I thought that was awesome. So yeah, I don't know if she was just, she was cutting her arm like up high, and some people are just people who are, not that that's good either, but they're just cutting to release pain or whatever, or the pain makes them feel better, but it's not really because they're trying to slit their wrists. I don't know. So Liam says when Clay gave the tour to the students and started shouting about the issue at the school and about the school being too late, it was really emotional and was another scene that was hard to watch for you. Yeah. And there was a lot of discussion about having all those like after something terrible happens, like when Jeff died, they decided to start putting posters up about drinking and driving after the fact. And then when someone kills themselves, they decide to put posters up about preventing suicide. It's like, it's a little too late. I don't blame the school for her killing herself, or for anyone killing themselves. I guess it depends on the situation. And I guess, you know, in this show, I don't blame any one person. Like, if you could blame any one person, I would say it would be Bryce. But then again, at the same time, when you commit suicide, that is your choice. I do definitely think people and factors play into that and contribute to that. So I don't think it's fair to say that school or the counselor or a certain student killed her, but I think they definitely contributed to her death. Neil says Tony told Clay they all let Hannah down, but Clay wasn't accepting that. He needed Clay to listen to his tape, so he told the truth he felt Clay would believe after he listened to his tape. And I guess that was the reason that, you know, he said what he said, because he definitely wanted him to finish all the tapes and definitely get to his tape. I haven't watched the documentary. I saw there was something on after that. I need to watch it. I haven't. I really did like Jeff. I thought Jeff was a good guy. I think he was genuine. I think he was a friend to Clay in some ways. I liked him. Brittany says people have said that the parents were too oblivious, but honestly, it's really realistic. People usually aren't honest or close with their parents. You feel that part of the show you see like every day. Yeah, I mean, I really can't criticize it. The only thing to me that was unrealistic was the fact that Bryce was allowed to buy alcohol and they were all drinking the alcohol right outside. Like, I can't believe the police wouldn't put a stop to that, because it was happening a lot. And I feel like there was one other thing that was pretty unrealistic, but the alcohol thing was really, to me, unrealistic. All Pro says Hannah needed to be more transparent. She plays too many games walking away when she wants you to follow her. You know, I mean, I think that they wanted to portray her as someone who wasn't 100% an angel, and that's, you know, maybe why she lied about the note. And I mean, who is perfect, you know? I mean, if anybody did a story about your life, I don't think we would see everyone always making the right decisions and never getting into an argument, never saying something hurtful. You know what I mean? I just think that they didn't want to make Hannah, they did make her pretty innocent, but I don't think they wanted to make her someone without any faults or who never did anything wrong. I like Jeff a lot. I agree he deserved better. And it's just sad that he, you know, everyone thought he was drinking and driving. Of course, there were a bunch of like beer bottles and stuff in his car, but everyone thinks that he caused his own death. I also figured out that he died pretty early on, as Ralph was saying, because he was not in any of the flash forward scenes, only in flashbacks. They also made a statement. The principal said, we have lost 2 students so far. And when he said that, that was my tip off that someone was dead. And I figured out that it was Jeff, because we never saw him in the current scenes. Ben says the way the flashbacks had warmer lighting to make it seem happier than the much colder lit present was really done. I loved how they especially would transition from past to present by, like, they would have someone opening like a refrigerator door in the present at somebody's house, like at Clay's house, and then Hannah would be opening a refrigerator door at her house in the past. It was very well shot and put together. I see that Chase is here. Thank you so much for being here. Ralph says that Hannah also lied about the FML group and said Alex and Jess left first. Exactly. She was the one who did. And I really don't blame the show for that. I think they were trying to show us that she didn't always tell the truth, because she's a real person. And I really advocate telling the truth, but who hasn't lied, you know? And sometimes if you were like writing down in a diary something like how your day went, I could write down everything that happened to me in a day, and maybe you hung out with me all day. And if you wrote down what happened in a day, you would see it differently than I saw it, you know? Although someone throwing a note on the floor and putting it in their wallet is pretty much cut and dry, but you know what I'm saying. McCremmer says cutting in the form that Sky does is almost like BDSM, or when people choke themselves to release dopamine. Yeah, people combine it with the trend where usually teenage girls would shallowly cut their wrists. So I agree with you. I don't consider that a suicide attempt, but perhaps she spoke out against suicide, but that doesn't mean she hadn't tried it. I don't know. Neil, yeah, Neil is actually, I don't remember seeing Neil here before, but Ralph is loving your comments, Neil, and I think I've missed some of them, so I apologize. Chillzone says, you think season 2 could focus on Alex and the aftermath, but they could just do a 2-hour special. I am very concerned about season 2 because of the school shooting. Seriously, don't want to see that. Really bothers me. Will actually felt bad for Justin when his mother's boyfriend choked him. You know, I'm really torn about Justin because I saw him be so terrible with Hannah, but then he really, really loved Jessica, but then he should have prevented her from getting raped. But his home situation was terrible. His mom was a deadbeat, and that boyfriend was just terrible and awful. And I do kind of feel bad for him. Like, he never had a place to stay half the time. I don't know. Ralph says that Hannah was very manipulative in her nature. Neil says that Alex, like we said, left the FML group first, but who left first between Hannah and Jess? I don't know. I was thinking it was Jess, but I could be wrong. I mean, Hannah, but I could be wrong. McCara really wants to know what happened during and after the phone call between Alex and Zach. Ralph says not only did she say Zach crumpled the note, it was neatly folded and carried and handled with care. Yes, so even if he had thrown the note, maybe he could have thrown the note on the ground, then felt bad and went back later and picked it up. But you could tell, you know when a piece of paper has been wadded up, even if you try to fold it neatly, it still looks bad. And you could tell that that note had not been wadded up. So definitely was a complete lie. Why she did it, I don't know. Really don't. Why the show did it, I feel like, is to say she's not perfect, but that's just what I think. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens with this show. And I didn't check to see if the show has a Twitter or Facebook or anything, just because where it was released all at once, I was afraid there might be something spoilerish on those social media channels. So let me know, or I'll Google that after we're done here, because I will follow those to make sure I'm, going to catch any sort of announcements about a season 2 so I can pass that on to you guys. So I'm going to be really interested to see. I think it's been so massively popular. I have a feeling that they will want to capitalize on this popularity and make more money off of it, personally. Datsun says Justin sucked, but considering his home life, you can't blame him. That's a hard one to think, I don't know what to think about that, because if you come from a bad home life, but you're pretty much an adult, are you to blame, or is your upbringing to blame? That's kind of a hard debate there, because I feel like he wasn't like a small child. I feel like he should be held responsible for his actions, but I definitely think his home life made him act out in certain ways which were not good. Brittany loves Zach. You think he's sweet. He was just hurt by her, and she was trying to protect herself from people like his friends. It's a sad situation. Neil says Zach took 2 things from the bag, the note and Clay's daily bunny picture. So there's the possibility that Zach crumpled up Clay's note and Hannah thought it was her note. So that's a really good point. Maybe he did throw something on the floor, and maybe it was not the letter where she poured her heart out. William says it was announced today that this show is Netflix's most popular show. So you think they'll try to do more with it. And that's what I think, because I think when it all comes down to it for a TV channel, I guess you could say, company, is money. And if they think they can make more money, they'll have a second season. So there has been a rumor that the actors who play Alex and Justin are dating, but when I Googled that, because a few people sent me that on Twitter, when I Googled it, I couldn't find anything that confirmed it. Apparently they posed in some photos together and people assumed that they were dating, but if you've seen it confirmed, let me know, because I was going to tweet out more information to you guys, but I couldn't find any confirmation. Ralph says socially awkward Clay asked her to a party and she said no, so he backed off, and then she was upset he didn't ask again. Yeah, I mean, I think she was kind of unsure of herself, low self-esteem, and didn't know what to do. And when they were hooking up, she started having bad thoughts about Justin and Bryce, I guess. No, maybe not Bryce, because she hadn't seen that yet, but Justin. So I don't know. Ralph says Justin was bullied at home, so he bullied in school, but really he was just scared and insecure. And I think that's true. A lot of time people who do bully other people, well, one, they usually have very low self-esteem. And a lot of times they were victims at some point or are currently victims of bullying. So they try to act tough by returning that to other people who they think they can scare. So he had just I do feel bad for him about his home life. It was absolutely awful. Julie says Clever TV posted a video about, oh, okay, so apparently they're not dating. That's kind of what I was getting from the articles I read, but they did take like some photos together, and somewhere, someone along the lines said that they were dating and started putting that everywhere, and so apparently it's not true. William says if they do a second season, you think it will cover school shootings, and you think it could start off as a flash forward of the aftermath of what Tyler did, and then go back to the present, showing the lead up. So I think knowing how graphic this show is, that if we have a second season, you can expect that kind of stuff with the school shootings to be extremely graphic and hard to watch. Of course, I will be watching, but just get ready for that if we have it, which I'm kind of thinking that we will. I really do. I think they want to make money off of this show, to be completely blunt about it. But yeah, Liam says you would dread a school shooting scene. I mean, the suicide scene was very tough. I don't know. This could be worse, honestly. Yeah, Marlene, let's don't say that, Chill Zone, because, you know, I've been good so far. Vanessa says the environment of life situations does play a factor in your opinion. You think if Justin had a more loving mother, that would not be the case. Yeah, I mean, sorry, my nose keeps itching. Sure, I think, and then Ralph is saying Justin treated women how his mom's boyfriend treated her. So he's probably from a young age was watching men be, I don't know what, you know, the guy was just a deadbeat as well. So men not be respectful of women, and he probably kind of patterned that, modeled that after these boyfriends. But it was sad because, you know, he really did care about Jessica. And I feel like he really did want to do the right thing with her. It was sad. I didn't see Tony's semicolon tattoo in the show, but I saw like somewhere, Twitter or something, that a bunch of people went with Selena to get the tattoos, which was interesting. I can't remember. I know it was like Catherine who played Hannah, and maybe the guy who was the magazine editor. Yeah, I'm going to have a really tough time with the school shooting scene. And not only because I would have a tough time with any school shooting scene, but because, you know, the targets are going to be people we actually came to know this whole season. So I'm worried. But Brittany makes a good point that not only can they make money off the show, they can discuss a variety of important topics, which sadly, school shootings are very relevant. Sadly. But I agree with you. It was funny. I agree with Julie that all these high school kids, they really did have a ton of tattoos, which I thought was interesting, but I don't know. Maybe that's what it's like. I'm not in high school anymore, so maybe people have a lot of tattoos in high school. I don't know. Yeah, the rock climb scene was funny. I haven't seen this movie Cliffhanger, but you're talking about Sylvester Stallone apparently had some kind of similar scene. I thought they were going to die, honestly. Brittany thinks it's really funny how most of the main guy characters have like 5 tattoos that they don't even try to cover up. So I don't know if that was just the actors' real tattoos or if they wanted these guys to have tattoos for the show. I don't know. It was a lot. The tattoos are just very popular in general right now, so I wasn't sure. Okay, so I mean, that's a new thing for me, like high schoolers and tattoos. It's a new thing. Liam says, you know what Tyler did was wrong, but you really dislike what Clay did to him with leaking out the picture. Yeah, that wasn't good either. And you know what? Clay is going to be, I mean, he's kind of the main character, so he's definitely going to be a target anyway, but I don't know if he'll get killed in this school shooting thing. It bothers me. Hi, Kay. Thank you so much for being here. Well, I mean, Vanessa's saying he did try to break up the rape scene, but I don't think he tried hard enough, guys. Come on. I mean, he's a guy. He could have broken the door down, anything. I don't think she would have cared if she knew what he was saving her from. But I also think that the fact that Hannah just sat there and did nothing, it makes me kind of aggravated because she could have jumped up and screamed or something. I don't know what I know would have to be in that situation to make that kind of decision. But I would just kind of feel like I can't just sit here and let this girl be raped. I'm sitting right here. I've got to do something, you know. I mean, maybe she thought Bryce was going to attack her. I don't know. But it just kind of bothers me that she didn't try to scream or jump up or do something. I don't know. Maybe she was terrified he was going to rape her there as well. I know. I feel like, you know, Jessica couldn't really fight back. She was completely out of it. So maybe it would just have been Bryce versus Hannah, and she felt like she couldn't fight him off. She definitely couldn't later in the pool. Brittany says, you guess that Hannah did the same kind of thing when she was raped, but you felt like there could have been more too. That was a weird situation. She even made mention of that. Like, she was like, you're going to think maybe I should have done more. But I feel like she just thought she couldn't overpower him, and she was like in water, and if she tried to push herself out, like, I'm sorry, my nose is just itching like so bad. I don't know why. If she tried to push herself out of the water, he was going to pull her back in, which he did, you know. But Ralph says in reality, Bryce would have been beat up by all the guys in the house. I think if they realized like what was going on, yeah, I do. She did freeze. Yeah, Andy says she froze and didn't know what to do. And it's hard to judge somebody for that until you've been in that exact situation. You know, it's easy for us to look at it and be like, we would have done this or that, but especially with everything going on with her anyway. Tony was like an old guy. Like, I know he's not, but he was like so wise beyond his years, you know. Shilzone wishes the counselor, whatever, would have listened to Hannah when she told him what Bryce did. Yeah, I know. He did a lot of things wrong. Absolutely. But I just want to update you about what's going on the rest of this week and next week. I will be doing Riverdale tomorrow. My reaction will be up later that night. Riverdale live chat is 5 p.m. Friday. Riverdale theory video Saturday. Next Monday, I'm doing another theory video for Pretty Little Liars the day before it premieres. So in case you missed it, or you just want to be a part of this other chat, would be great. That'll be at 5 p.m. Eastern. And then Pretty Little Liars is Tuesday. So all the stuff starts for that. The reaction video that night. Live chats on Pretty Little Liars are every Wednesday at 5 p.m. So it's going to be really, really busy on KELLIETV for a while. So I hope you're ready for that. Brittany says it would have been awesome if they all attacked Bryce. You mean Justin could have gone out of the party? Yeah. I mean, at least he could have run downstairs and said, I think Bryce is raping my girlfriend and I can't get in the room. I just felt like, honestly, he could have done more. I just feel like I would have done more in that situation if I had anybody, even if I didn't care about them, if I thought they were in there being raped. It's like, please try to do something. Ralph says it's funny because Justin and Bryce were talking like they'd shared a girlfriend in the past. And apparently Bryce thought it was okay because he thought that it's never okay, but he thought that Justin didn't really care about this girl. She was just a hookup and it wasn't going to matter. But yeah, I mean, disgusting. Kay doesn't understand how Justin was able to keep that a secret from her for so long. I guess he just didn't want her to know because it's like so upsetting and he was afraid to tell her. So I don't know, but I want to thank you guys so much for being here. This was so much fun to discuss this with you guys. And if you haven't checked out the video I put up yesterday where I just sat down and gave all my thoughts about the series, that is up on my channel, so check that out. If you are new here and you haven't subscribed, please do. A lot is coming up with Pretty Little Liars, the rest of Riverdale, Twin Peaks, and Orphan Black, the final season. So I would hope you would join me and thumbs up this video if you enjoyed it. I'll read a couple more comments. McCremer says, are you the only one that felt the juxtaposition of a broad use of 80s new wave music and posters throughout the series was strange with how they made it seem like liking it was an oddity in scenes. Well, yeah, I also felt like the use of cassette tapes and the super old car that Tony had and the Walkmans, which is like an 80s thing, was interesting. So it was like, you know, it was very interesting, but it was also such a modern show. So it was a weird way to incorporate all of that. But thank you again for being here. I'm so glad we all got to enjoy this amazing show together. I will definitely be here to do videos in some way with a season 2. I will have to figure out in the future how to handle Netflix shows and whether I want to do specific videos for each episode or what. I'm just so concerned about spoiling of any type, which sometimes people do without trying to be mean, and sometimes people do to be malicious. So, but I hope you guys have a great week, the rest of your week, and I'll see you tomorrow night with my new Riverdale reaction video. So, bye guys.